Marcus was about to embark on the biggest adventure of his life. The offer had come out of nowhere. A prestigious galactic corporation, one of the largest and most influential in the galaxy, had hired him. But there was one catch. He would be the only human at the job, working alongside over 100 alien women in a high-tech manufacturing facility. As the shuttle made its descent into the factory's sprawling complex on the distant planet of Viridia, Marcus couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and nerves. His training as an engineer had taken him far in his career, but nothing could prepare him for this. This was an opportunity to prove himself, to make a name in a galaxy full of advanced species who saw humans as, well, less advanced. The factory, a massive structure built into the heart of Viridia's mountains, gleamed under the sunlight as Marcus stepped out of the shuttle. He could see that the planet was lush and vibrant, unlike the bustling cityscapes he had seen on Earth. The air was fresh, and the sky was filled with clouds that looked like they were painted by a master artist. This wasn't just a factory. It was a symbol of the future, and Marcus was about to be a part of it. He was met by an assistant at the entrance, a tall alien woman with deep purple skin and piercing eyes that seemed to study him as soon as he approached. "Welcome to the Galactic Engineering Factory, Human Marcus," she said, her voice soft but firm. "I am Celera. I'll be showing you to your new workplace." Her tone was polite, but there was a subtle hint of uncertainty in her voice, as if she had never interacted with a human before. Marcus nodded, feeling the weight of her gaze, but trying to ignore the tension rising in his chest. He had spent years in his studies, working his way up to this moment. Now, standing in front of Celera, he couldn't help but wonder what kind of challenges lay ahead. As they walked toward the main building, Marcus couldn't help but notice the diversity of the women working around him. Alien species of all shapes and sizes moved with purpose, communicating in a language he couldn't understand. Some were humanoid, others were more alien in form, with smooth blue scales, feathered skin, and even tentacles. Despite their differences, they all moved in unison, working in perfect harmony. Celera explained the factory's work culture, though Marcus had trouble focusing. His mind was racing. How would they treat him? Would they see him as just another employee, or would his presence make things difficult? "You will be working on our advanced engineering projects," Celera continued. "The team you will be assigned to is skilled in every area of manufacturing. Each individual is a master of their craft. You will be expected to keep up." Marcus nodded again, not fully grasping her words. He had no doubts about his abilities. He had worked on tough projects before, but this was different. This was a new world, one where his every move would be scrutinized. And worse, he was the only man here. That thought alone made him nervous. Celera stopped in front of a large set of metallic doors and activated a panel. "This is your workspace," she said as the doors slid open to reveal a large, brightly lit room. Inside, a dozen alien women were already at work, their attention fixed on various machines and screens. They didn't seem to notice Marcus at first. The walls were lined with equipment, sleek machines that hummed with life, monitoring devices, and tools that looked advanced beyond anything he had seen on Earth. The air smelled faintly of oil and electricity, and the steady hum of machines created a rhythmic background noise. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling of being an outsider. These women had worked together for years, and now, here he was, a single human, about to take his place in their world. A woman with long, flowing silver hair looked up from a console and met his gaze. Her skin was a soft shade of green, and her eyes were bright and welcoming. "Ah, the human," she said, her voice warm. "I'm Ilara. I'll be your supervisor. Don't worry. We've had humans working with us before. Just follow our lead, and you'll do fine." Her words were kind, but there was an edge to them. Marcus couldn't tell if it was the stress of the job or if she was sizing him up. Either way, he felt a weight settle on his shoulders. "Welcome to the team," she said, motioning to the others. One by one, the women glanced over at him, their expressions a mix of curiosity and mild interest. It was clear that they had never worked with a human before. As Marcus took a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to prove himself. He wasn't just here to blend in. He was here to show that humans, despite their relatively young place in the galaxy, had something valuable to contribute. He just hoped he could earn their respect. "Okay, everyone," Ilara said, breaking the silence. "This is Marcus, our newest member. He's here to work with us, and he will be assigned to a team. Let's get started. Marcus, follow me, please." He followed her to a workstation, his heart pounding in his chest. The room was filled with the sound of his footsteps as he walked, each one echoing in his ears. For a moment, he felt like he was walking into a different world, one where he was the only stranger. Ilara turned to him with a smile. "Don't worry. You'll be fine," she said again. "Just work hard, and you'll fit in." Marcus smiled back, though he wasn't sure if he believed her. But one thing was clear. He had a long way to go before he could call this place home. Marcus stepped into the large workstation, feeling the eyes of the alien women upon him. Each one was busy with their own tasks, but there was no mistaking the curiosity in their gazes. He could feel their eyes studying him, trying to figure out what kind of human he was. To them, he was an outsider, an unknown element in a place where everything had always been in perfect order. Ilara, his supervisor, walked him to a workbench covered with advanced equipment. "This will be your station. You'll be working with us on the latest engineering project." She motioned to the large machines that hummed softly in the background, their intricate designs belying their sheer power. "You'll need to learn how to operate the tools and interfaces quickly. Don't worry, you'll be fine." Marcus nodded, trying his best to seem confident. He had worked with advanced machinery on Earth, but this was different. These machines weren't built for humans. They were designed by and for alien species. The controls looked foreign. The interfaces were in languages he didn't understand, and every tool was custom-made for beings that weren't human. Ilara seemed to sense his hesitation. "I know it's a lot to take in at first, but you'll get used to it. We've had humans work with us before. The key is to learn quickly and ask questions when you need to." She paused for a moment, then added, "But don't expect to get special treatment just because you're human." He smiled weakly. "I wouldn't dream of it," he said, trying to mask his nervousness. As he began to examine the equipment, Ilara walked away to attend to other tasks, leaving him to his own devices. Marcus felt his heart race as he stared at the complex machinery. How was he supposed to figure this out? It wasn't just the machines that intimidated him, though. It was the women around him. They were skilled, confident, and seemed to know exactly what they were doing. He glanced around the room, trying to see if any of them were watching him. The one nearest to him, a tall alien with teal-colored skin and sharp features, seemed to be working on a similar task. Her eyes briefly met his, and she gave him a small nod of acknowledgement before returning to her work. He could hear soft murmurs in the background as the alien women communicated with each other. The language was strange, fluid, and full of musical tones. Marcus felt out of place, like a fish trying to swim in water it didn't understand. He turned his attention back to the tools in front of him. There were several buttons and levers, each with labels in an alien script he couldn't decipher. The machines around him had panels filled with glowing symbols, and the faint hum of the machinery filled the air, like the heartbeat of the factory itself. A few moments passed before Ilara returned, walking over with a device in her hands. She held it out to him. "This is a calibration tool," she explained. "It helps align the factory's machinery to the specifications we need. It's vital for the work we're doing here." Marcus took the tool, inspecting it closely. The design was elegant but foreign, and he wasn't sure how it worked. "Do you have instructions for this?" he asked, hoping for some guidance. Ilara smiled. "It's simple enough once you understand the system, but I'll show you how to use it." She motioned for him to follow her. As she led him to a nearby machine, she began to explain the process. guiding him step by step through the functions of the tool. Despite his initial doubts, Marcus quickly realized that Ilara wasn't just a supervisor. She was an excellent teacher. She was patient, explaining everything clearly and without judgment. Her knowledge of the machinery was vast, and he admired how effortlessly she seemed to handle everything. As they worked together, Marcus couldn't help but notice the subtle differences in their interactions. The other alien women, while polite, seemed to keep their distance. They worked hard, and Marcus could see the strength and precision in their movements, but none of them engaged in casual conversation. It was as if they all had their own world, one that he had yet to enter. At one point, he looked over at a group of women gathered near a console, their conversations a mix of clicks and melodic sounds. They appeared deep in discussion, their hands moving quickly across the screens. Marcus tried to pick up on their expressions and gestures, but it was difficult to understand their communication. It wasn't that they were unfriendly. He could tell that much, but they were focused, as though they were in their own realm. Marcus glanced at Ilara, who was busy calibrating a different machine. She caught his gaze and raised an eyebrow. "You'll get used to it," she said, almost as if reading his thoughts. "We work hard here. The focus is on the task at hand." "I can see that," Marcus replied, smiling slightly. He felt a bit better hearing her reassurance. As the day wore on, Marcus began to find his rhythm. He wasn't as quick as the others, but he was learning. The machines, while strange, became less intimidating as he spent more time with them. His hands grew steadier, and his confidence slowly grew as well. Still, the sense of being the only human in a room full of alien women lingered in the back of his mind. At lunchtime, the alien women began to gather at a large table. Marcus stood by awkwardly, unsure of where to sit. Ilara noticed his hesitation and motioned for him to join them. "Don't stand there. Come, sit with us." Marcus hesitated for a moment, but then nodded and walked over. The women greeted him with nods and soft smiles, but there was a coolness to their reception. They didn't speak to him much, but they didn't ignore him either. It was as if they were still assessing him, trying to figure out where he fit into their world. He sat down, feeling the weight of their silent scrutiny. He wasn't sure what he expected, but he had hoped for more warmth. Still, he didn't mind. He wasn't here to make friends. He was here to prove himself, to show that humans had a place in this vast alien galaxy. As he ate his meal, an assortment of foods he'd never seen before, Marcus realized something. The challenge wasn't just the work or the machines. The real challenge would be earning their trust and respect. Only then would he truly be part of the team. Days passed, and Marcus slowly began to adapt to life in the galactic factory. The work was challenging, the pace fast, but each day he felt a little more at home. The machines that once seemed so intimidating were becoming more familiar, and the alien women, while still distant, were beginning to accept him as part of the team. Ilara continued to guide him, and her support helped him gain confidence. She was an excellent mentor, always willing to explain things patiently and offer advice. Yet it wasn't just her encouragement that helped Marcus find his place. It was his own determination. He knew that in order to succeed here, he had to push himself further than ever before. One afternoon, as the workday was drawing to a close, Marcus found himself working on a complex machine that had been malfunctioning for days. The others had tried to fix it, but no one could figure out what was wrong. Ilara had tasked Marcus with the repair, giving him a look that seemed to say, "This is your moment. Show them what you can do." Marcus felt the weight of her gaze on him, but instead of being intimidated, he focused. He spent the next few hours carefully inspecting every part of the machine, from the smallest wires to the largest panels. His mind raced as he worked, recalling everything he had learned back on Earth. It wasn't just about fixing a machine. It was about proving to everyone that a human could do the job just as well, if not better, than the aliens around him. His hands moved with purpose, tracing the lines of the faulty system and examining the interfaces. He began to feel a strange sense of satisfaction as the problem became clearer. The alien women had overlooked one small component, a tiny sensor that was malfunctioning. It was the reason the entire system had been unstable. Marcus carefully replaced the part and recalibrated the machine. He pressed the final button, holding his breath as the machine hummed to life. It worked. The screens flickered, the lights returned to their proper levels, and the machine started functioning perfectly again. A sense of pride washed over him. He had done it. He had solved the problem no one else could. Ilara walked over to inspect the machine, her face unreadable. She ran her fingers over the controls, checking the system's stability. Marcus stood nearby, waiting for her judgment. For a moment, there was silence. Then Ilara looked up, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "Well done, Marcus," she said. Her voice was firm but approving. "You've earned your place here." The words were simple, but they meant everything to him. For the first time since he had arrived, he felt truly accepted, not just as the only human among 100 alien women, but as a valuable member of the team. He had proven himself not only to Ilara, but to everyone else in the factory. The other women began to notice too. At first, they had kept their distance, wary of the human in their midst. But now, after seeing his success with the machine, their attitudes began to shift. The skepticism that had been there before started to fade. Salira, the assistant who had first greeted him when he arrived, gave him a nod of approval as she passed by. "Good job on that machine, Marcus," she said. It wasn't much, but it was a recognition he hadn't expected from her. Later that day, as Marcus worked on a different project, he noticed a few of the women watching him from across the room. They didn't say anything, but their eyes were no longer filled with suspicion. There was something else there now: respect. One of the women, a short alien with blue skin and 4 arms, approached him. "I heard about the repair you did," she said. It was impressive. Not many humans could have figured that out. Marcus smiled, surprised at the compliment. "Thanks," he said. "It wasn't that hard once I figured out what was wrong." She tilted her head, as if considering his words. "You're different from what I expected," she admitted. "I thought humans were all the same, slow and weak. But you're not. You think quickly and you work hard. I like that." Marcus chuckled. "I'm glad I'm not what you expected." Her eyes softened, and for the first time, she seemed genuinely interested in talking to him. "You know, we've never had a human work here before. I think you're the first. But I can see why they chose you." Her words made Marcus feel like he had truly made an impact. In a place where everyone else was an alien, he had found his place, and his efforts were being recognized. As the day ended, Ilara came to him again. "You did well today," she said, her tone softer than usual. "I'm proud of you." "Thank you," Marcus replied. "I'm just doing my job." Ilara looked at him for a long moment, as if evaluating him. "It's more than that, Marcus. You've earned the respect of the team. You've proven yourself." She paused and then added, "You belong here." Those words meant more to him than any compliment he had received. The feeling of being accepted, of being part of something bigger than himself, was overwhelming. For the first time since he had arrived, Marcus felt like he wasn't just the odd one out. He was a part of the team, one of them. As he left the factory that day, walking back to his quarters under the starry sky, Marcus couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He had come to a place where he was a stranger, an outsider, but now he was making his mark. In the days that followed, the alien women continued to treat him with more respect. They still kept their distance, but there was an unspoken understanding between them now. He was no longer just the human who didn't belong. He was someone they could rely on. For Marcus, that was enough. He had gained their respect, and in doing so, he had found his place among them. It wasn't going to be easy, but he was ready for whatever came next. The days in the galactic factory grew longer as Marcus settled into his role. Though the work was demanding, he found himself becoming more comfortable with the machines, the processes, and even with his colleagues. The alien women, while still keeping their distance, had started to acknowledge his efforts. He was no longer seen as just the outsider, but as someone capable and valuable. However, as the factory's production increased, so did the challenges. The pace of work was relentless, and the stakes were high. Marcus began to realize that it wasn't just about fixing machines anymore. It was about maintaining the delicate balance that kept the entire facility running smoothly. One morning, a serious problem arose. The main energy core that powered the entire factory began to malfunction. The lights flickered, and the machines hummed erratically. Marcus could feel the tension in the air as workers hurried to check the system, but it was clear that no one could figure out what was wrong. Ilara, the leader of his team, called everyone into a meeting. "This is critical," she said, her tone serious. "If the energy core goes down, everything stops. All production will halt, and we could lose weeks of work." Marcus stood in the back of the room, listening intently. The women in the room exchanged uneasy glances. Most of them were experts in their fields, but even they seemed unsure about how to proceed. "I've gone over the system multiple times, but I'm not seeing the root of the problem," said Salira, the assistant who had first greeted Marcus. Her voice was tight with frustration. Ilara turned to Marcus. "You've had success with the machines before. Can you take a look?" Marcus nodded, stepping forward. He knew this was a chance to prove himself again, not just to Ilara, but to everyone. He couldn't afford to fail now, not when the stakes were so high. "Of course," he said. "I'll do my best." The energy core was located deep within the factory, in a large room that pulsed with an eerie blue light. Marcus could feel the heat radiating from the core as he approached it. It was a massive, complex system, with cables and tubes running in every direction. The air was thick with tension, and the humming of the machinery grew louder as Marcus began his inspection. For the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. The core's readings were stable, the energy output was consistent, and nothing seemed out of place. But Marcus knew better than to take things at face value. He began to look deeper, examining each component with careful attention. It was then that he noticed something unusual. One of the energy conduits was showing signs of stress, the readings slightly off, but not enough for the system to shut down entirely. It was subtle, a small issue that could easily be overlooked. Marcus leaned closer, running his fingers along the conduit. He found a crack, small but growing, in one of the energy relays. "This is it," Marcus said, his voice steady. "The relay is cracked. It's causing an imbalance in the system." Ilara, who had been watching him closely, nodded. "Can it be fixed?" Marcus looked at the damaged relay. It would take time, but it wasn't impossible to repair. "I can patch it up, but we'll need to replace it soon. If we don't, the stress will continue to build and could cause a total system failure." Ilara didn't hesitate. "Do it. We don't have time to waste." Marcus set to work, carefully repairing the crack in the relay. The room was silent except for the soft sounds of his tools and the hum of the energy core. It took all his focus to make sure the repair was perfect. As he worked, he could feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just another machine to fix. If he failed, the entire factory could shut down. The minutes stretched on, and the pressure mounted. He could feel the eyes of the women on him, watching, waiting. He finished the repair and stepped back, wiping the sweat from his brow. "All right, I'm done," Marcus said. "Now we just need to reroute the system to check if everything is stable." Ilara gave him a nod of approval. "Do it. Let's make sure it works." Marcus initiated the system reset, watching the screens intently. The core began to hum louder, the lights flickering once more as the energy surged back to full power. The machines around him started to stabilize, the faint rumbling of the factory returning to its normal rhythm. "It's working," Marcus said, a sense of relief washing over him. The system is stable again. The room erupted in quiet applause. The alien women, who had been silently watching, exchanged smiles and nods of approval. Marcus felt a warmth in his chest as he realized they were no longer just tolerating him. They were starting to respect him. Ilara approached him with a smile. "You did well, Marcus. I knew you were capable, but this was impressive." Salira, who had been one of the more skeptical ones, stepped forward. "I admit, I wasn't sure about you at first, but now, you've proven yourself. You're a real asset to the team." Marcus smiled, feeling the weight of their words. "Thank you. I'm just doing my job." His skills, but hearing Salira say it out loud made him feel more accepted than ever before. "I've been trying to learn as much as I can," Marcus said, "but I still have a lot to catch up on." Salira shook her head. "You're doing better than most of us did when we first started here. We all had to adjust to the factory systems, just like you. But you're different. You're more willing to ask questions, to seek out answers." Marcus appreciated the compliment, but he knew there was still so much he didn't understand. The alien technology was vast, and while he was improving, he still felt like there was so much more to learn. That evening, as the team gathered for a break, Ilara called everyone to attention. "I want to announce something," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Marcus has been an invaluable member of this team. His creativity and problem-solving skills have saved us countless hours. He's proven that humans are more than capable of contributing to our work. So, starting tomorrow, he'll be leading a small team to oversee the energy storage project." The room fell silent for a moment, and then a few of the women nodded in approval. Some even smiled, though it was still a rare sight. Marcus felt a rush of pride, but also a bit of nervousness. Leading a team was a big responsibility, and he wasn't sure he was ready for it. Ilara seemed to sense his hesitation. "Don't worry, Marcus," she said softly. "I have no doubt you'll do great. You've earned this." The next day, Marcus stood in front of his new team, which consisted of Salira and a few other skilled women from the factory. It was a small group, but the weight of leadership felt heavy. As they discussed the project, Marcus noticed that the atmosphere was different. The women were looking to him for guidance, and for the first time, he realized how far he had come. He wasn't just the human in the corner anymore. He was a leader, someone they trusted to guide them through the next phase of the project. And that realization filled him with a sense of purpose. As the project continued, Marcus worked closely with his team. He listened to their ideas, contributed his own, and slowly began to shape the direction of the project. The women were still reserved, but the barriers between them were starting to break down. They respected him, and he respected them. One day, as they gathered around a table to review the final designs, Ilara walked in. She smiled at Marcus, nodding her approval. "I'm impressed. You've done well, Marcus. I knew you were capable, but this is something special." Marcus looked around at his team. "It's not just me. It's all of us. We work together to make this happen." Ilara's smile widened. "Exactly. That's what makes you such a good leader. You understand the importance of teamwork, and that's something we all value here." As the project moved forward, Marcus began to feel more at home than ever before. The women, while still maintaining their cultural distance, had become his team, and he had become theirs. They were no longer just coworkers. They were allies, working together for a common goal. And for Marcus, that was all he needed. He had found common ground, not just with the machines, but with the women around him. He was no longer the outsider. He was part of something bigger, a team, a family. The days at the Galactic Factory continued to pass, each one blending into the next as Marcus settled into his role as a leader within the team. He had worked hard to gain the respect of his colleagues, and now he was beginning to understand the deeper rhythms of the factory. Every task, every project was part of something bigger, something vital to the galaxy. And each day, he felt more connected to that mission. But despite all his progress, Marcus knew that the challenges were far from over. The energy storage project had been moving smoothly, but a new issue had arisen. The factory was running low on critical resources. The material needed for the energy storage devices was becoming harder to find, and the shipments that came in were inconsistent at best. One afternoon, Ilara called a meeting. Marcus, along with the rest of the team, gathered in a large conference room where the mood was tense. The factory's supply chain was under threat, and without the right materials, their project would stall. "We need those materials," Ilara said, her voice firm. "The entire project depends on them, but the supplier has been unreliable. If we don't receive a shipment soon, we'll have no choice but to delay the project, and that could affect everything else." Marcus listened carefully, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He had been involved in plenty of projects back on Earth where resources were limited, but nothing like this. He had seen the difficulty of working under tight conditions, but this was different. The stakes were higher than he had ever known. "What can we do?" he asked, his voice steady, though his mind was racing. "Is there another way to get the materials?" Ilara's gaze softened, and she shook her head. "We've tried every other supplier. If we don't get the shipment soon, we'll need to come up with an alternative solution. I'm counting on you, Marcus. We need this to work." It was clear that the pressure was building, and Marcus could feel the responsibility weighing heavily on him. This wasn't just about fixing machines anymore. This was about keeping the factory and their entire operation going. The next day, Marcus set out with his team to explore any possible solutions. They had a limited amount of materials left, but they couldn't afford to waste a single piece. As they worked through the factory's systems, Marcus's mind kept circling back to the same question. What could they do with what they had left? He decided to take a different approach. Instead of focusing on what they couldn't get, he started thinking about what they could do with the resources they already had. He reviewed the designs for the energy storage units and the machines they had been working on. After hours of brainstorming and collaboration with his team, a new idea started to take shape. Why not adapt the current systems? Marcus suggested during their next team meeting. "We can modify the energy storage units to work with the materials we have left. It won't be exactly what we planned, but it could be enough to keep the project moving forward." Salira, who had become one of his closest collaborators, raised an eyebrow. "You think we can modify the designs without compromising the efficiency?" Marcus nodded. "We'll need to tweak the systems, rework some of the components, but it's possible. We'll use the remaining resources more efficiently, and it might even make the systems more durable in the long run." The team was skeptical at first. It wasn't easy to change the design of a project that had already been set in motion. But Marcus's confidence and determination were contagious. Slowly, the women began to see the logic in his idea. They gathered around their workstations, adjusting the plans, recalculating energy outputs, and modifying components to fit the new design. The work was grueling. It took hours of testing, reworking, and constant adjustments. Marcus found himself pulling late nights, staying at the factory long after the others had gone home. But as he worked, he began to see the pieces coming together. The new design, while unconventional, was beginning to take shape. It was more compact, more efficient, and above all, it worked. By the end of the week, Marcus and his team had completed the prototype for the new energy storage unit. They ran the first tests late one evening, and the results were promising. The system was stable, and the energy output was just as powerful as the original design. Ilara arrived the next morning to find the team gathered around the testing area. Marcus stood at the front, watching the monitors as the data rolled in. He looked up when he saw her approach. "Is it ready?" Ilara asked, her voice filled with anticipation. Marcus gave her a small, confident smile. "It's not what we originally planned, but it works. The new design is stable, and the energy output is on target." Ilara walked over to the testing area, her eyes scanning the results on the screen. She didn't say anything for a long moment, and Marcus could feel his heart beating faster in his chest. Finally, she turned to him, her expression softening. "You did it," she said, her voice full of admiration. "You and your team did it." The words felt like a weight lifting off Marcus's shoulders. He had done it. They had done it. Despite the setbacks, despite the pressure, they have found a way to keep the project moving forward. The rest of the team erupted into cheers, and even Zolira, who had been the most doubtful, gave Marcus a nod of approval. "I didn't think it was possible," she admitted, "but you were right. We did it." Ilara placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "This is a major accomplishment, not just for the project, but for you, Marcus. You've proven yourself again. You've shown us that when faced with a challenge, you don't back down. You find a way." Marcus smiled, feeling a sense of pride wash over him. He had come so far from the nervous human who had first stepped into the factory. Now he was leading his team through one of the most difficult situations they had faced, and they had succeeded. As the team celebrated, Marcus realized something. He wasn't just the only human in the factory anymore. He was part of a team, a family. And no matter what challenges came next, he knew he could face them, because he wasn't alone. The days after the success of the energy storage project felt different. Marcus had earned a respect of his colleagues, but it wasn't just about proving his skills anymore. As the weeks passed, something deeper began to take root within the factory walls, something he hadn't expected. A sense of belonging. The factory, with its sprawling corridors and high-tech machines, had once felt like an alien world. It was a place where Marcus was an outsider, the only human among 100 alien women. But now it felt more like home. The machines, though still complex, no longer intimidated him. The alien women, once distant and reserved, had become his friends and colleagues. He had earned their trust, and in return, they had shown him respect, not just for his work, but for who he was. It was late one evening when Ilara approached him with a new challenge. As always, her tone was professional, but there was something in her eyes that hinted at the seriousness of the task ahead. "Marcus, I need your help," she said, walking over to his workstation. "The factory is expanding. We've been given a new contract to build a large-scale energy production facility. It's going to require all of us, and I want you to lead the planning team." Marcus looked up from his work, surprised. Leading the planning for a new facility was a huge responsibility, and though he had led a small team before, this felt different. "Are you sure?" he asked, unsure if he was ready for such a big task. Ilara gave him a steady look. "You've already proven yourself. I trust you, Marcus. The team trusts you. This is a challenge, but I know you can handle it." Her words made something click in Marcus's mind. He wasn't just a human among aliens anymore. He was a leader, a part of something much bigger. He had earned the place he now held in the factory. And it wasn't just because of his technical skills. It was because of his ability to bring people together, to lead them through challenges, and to find solutions when things seemed impossible. "All right," Marcus said, standing up and meeting her gaze. "I'll do it." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The new project was massive, and the stakes were higher than ever. Marcus was tasked with leading the planning team, which included some of the best engineers and experts in the factory. Together, they worked around the clock to create a plan for the new energy facility. Marcus found himself juggling multiple responsibilities, managing the team, keeping up with the design work, and ensuring that every detail was perfect. At times, the pressure seemed overwhelming. There were moments when Marcus questioned his ability to handle such a huge task. But whenever doubt crept in, he would look around at the women on his team, Zolira, Ilara, and the others, and he would remember how far they had come together. They had supported him through every challenge, and now it was his turn to do the same for them. One afternoon, as Marcus reviewed the blueprints for the new facility, he noticed something troubling. The designs were sound, But there was a flaw in the energy distribution system that could cause problems down the line. It wasn't a huge issue, but if left unchecked, it could lead to major complications during construction. Marcus immediately called a meeting with his team. He went over the problem carefully, explaining the issue and suggesting a new approach to the system design. At first, the team was quiet, unsure if the change was necessary. But Marcus's confidence and the logic behind his proposal soon convinced them to make the adjustments. "We need to act quickly," Marcus said, his voice steady. "If we don't fix this now, we could run into bigger problems later. I know it's a lot of work, but it'll be worth it in the long run." The team nodded in agreement, and they set to work, making the necessary changes to the design. It was a difficult process, but Marcus knew they could do it. They had done it before, and they would do it again. As the project progressed, Marcus's leadership grew stronger. He had earned the respect of the team not just through his technical expertise, but through his ability to listen, to make tough decisions, and to keep everyone focused on the bigger picture. His team began to rely on him more and more, not just for his knowledge, but for his steady hand in guiding them through challenges. One evening, after a particularly long day of work, Marcus found himself sitting in the break room with Scifi. They were the last two remaining in the factory, both exhausted from the day's work. Marcus sat back in his chair, stretching his arms, and let out a long sigh. "You did well today," Scifi said, her voice soft. "You always seem to know what to do, even when everything seems so chaotic." Marcus smiled, tired but content. "It's not just me. It's all of us. We've come a long way." Scifi nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You know, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad you're here. I used to think humans were, well, not up to our standards. But you've proven me wrong. You fit in here." Her words touched Marcus more than he expected. For so long, he had felt like an outsider. But now, after everything they had accomplished together, he realized that he wasn't just fitting in. He was part of something. A team. A family. "I'm glad too," Marcus said quietly. "I never thought I'd be part of something like this." Scifi gave him a small smile. "You've earned it." As the project moved forward, Marcus continued to work alongside his team, leading them through each phase of the facility's construction. Every challenge they faced, every obstacle that arose, was met with a sense of unity. The team, which had once been filled with uncertainty about the human in their midst, had become a close-knit group, working together to accomplish something remarkable. And through it all, Marcus realized that he had found more than just a place to work. He had found a family of women from all over the galaxy, each with their own unique strengths, but all united by a common goal. They had become more than just colleagues. They were his friends, his team, and his family. As Marcus stood before the completed energy facility, watching the final systems come online, he felt a deep sense of pride. This wasn't just his success, it was their success. Together, they had built something incredible. Together, they had proven that no matter how different they were, they could accomplish anything.